This is the Velvet Door, where beyond the door, we discuss all things that are worthy. Hurry up before it's too late.
My swagger, but at least I help my people. And then Black Panther responds, "You exploit people. There's a difference." And then here goes Killmonger. He responds with, "So tell me, T'Challa, surrender right now." I can't really read this, but it says, if I surrender right now, will you promise to turn, let's see, does it say Wakanda? I can't really read that. If y'all can read that, let me know. It says, "Will you promise to turn blank into a technological paradise? Share the riches of Wakanda with your neighbors." Con, I'm asking Connor because you might know a little bit more about the comic. Is that Naganda? Is that the name of the land that Killmonger was from? Naganda?
I'll have to look at that. Um, I'll have to look at that real quick. Even me, because I never heard of Naganda. But I think, you know, he's trying to say he's from kind of like in the movies from Wakanda. But let me just look at this real quick. I'm gonna retweet and zoom in real quick. 1 second.
Okay, yeah, it looks like this might be the government of Najadaka, a U.S. government. Let me see. Let me make sure, because this comic is a little blurry. But the whole premise of this particular piece of the comic book is that Killmonger is asking the Black Panther, "Are you going to turn my place into a technological paradise? Are you going to share your riches with everyone else, and including
Can
us?"
I say something real quick? I think
Go
I got
ahead.
an answer for you. I think he's saying Wakanda. That's what I just think. Because I see like a M kind of W, and then I just come to the conclusion. I'm just gonna say he's saying Wakanda because Wakanda was a technological paradise. They had the colonial beads, they had everything else, and Killmonger, being a former CIA, we kind of know his background. He wants that, right? Remember, Ross is telling him how they trained his particular special ops unit in the CIA, the Black Book operation. So I think he's talking about Wakanda, and he's saying like, yeah, share it with your neighbors and da da da, kind of like in the movie, which we see T'Challa do, but it's kind of through the UN, and that's going to be a mess. I feel later in the comic book. I mean, later in the Marvel universe in the movies. Yeah.
All right, perfect, perfect. Okay, so we're gonna go with that. It looks like an N once you zoom out, but we're gonna go with that. Pretty much, basically, in my theory, one to turn America into an incorporated technological paradise, right? So, being that they're often being invaded, they're often being attacked. They want something in return for their attacks. If you're going to attack, if you're going to try to invade, how about you give us something that we can basically benefit off of, right? All right. So the next one we're going to get into was we were talking about the comic book being that Killmonger was from Harlem, New York, in the heart of Manhattan. And we know that Manhattan is very important when it comes to the First Nations, Eastern Woodland area, and the British and the Dutch, right? Why is it so important? Because this is where you will find the infamous purchase of the Manhattan Island, as we now know today as Manhattan, or as you guys know as New York City, right? So I actually showed the picture of the Killmonger, and how, if you see, there's a picture I posted of a Blackamoor speaking with the brown American Indians about the purchase of the Manhattan, right? And just trying to draw the correlations about why it's important to keep the story as a Harlem, New York story if we're going to talk about an Indigenous American history. And I actually provided the link that you can find that, and I'm going to post that to the top of the room. All right. And I actually posted that he's a Wakandan boy that was raised in Harlem. So I posted the facts that in the comic book he was actually from Harlem, New York. All right, so now this video, I'm going to play the video. We get down to the next tweet. I'm going to post this into the room too. Killmonger addressing the 5 tribes at the United Nations, letting them know that he knows the truth about who he is and what they've done to the world in his home. So I'm going to play the video, and then I want to get y'all opinions on what do you think about my assertion to what this video means to me and my theory, and what do you think about the this video period and how it resonate with you. So I'm gonna go ahead and play it just 1 second. Uh-oh. 1 second. Uh-oh, my baby. 1 second. Uh-oh, my baby.
You know where I'm from. When black folks started revolutions, they never had the firepower or the resources to fight their oppressors. Where was Wakanda? You know that ends today. We got spies embedded in every nation on Earth, already in place. I know how colonizers think, so we're going to use their own strategy against them. We're going to send vibranium weapons out to our war dogs. They'll arm oppressed people all over the world so they can finally rise up and kill those in power and their children and anyone else who takes their side. It's time they know the truth about us. We're warriors. The world's going to start over, and this time we're on top. The sun will never set on the Wakandan Empire.
Wakanda has survived for so long by fighting when only absolutely necessary.
Wakanda survived in the past this way, yes. But the world is changing, General. Tell us, it is getting smaller. The outside world is catching up, and soon it will be the conquerors or the conquered.
Alrighty, so that was the audio from when his Killmonger is addressing everyone once he's taken the throne. And why did I think that was so important to put in this thread is because, you know what, it reminds me of as the American Negro, as you sit with the 5 civilized tribes, right? And you let them know, listen, we know you keeping a secret. We know, you know, that a lot of your people are out here detribalized, lost, and
The
in the
vast
process.
majority, shit.
Right, you feel me? And we know that you know that they are also losing their lands by eminent domain because they are detribalized and they don't have protection of a nation. And the fact that you do know this and you don't come seek your members, you don't put out a PSA for your people, it almost feels as if you're complicit in the erasure of certain families and bloodlines, right? So I'm gonna pass it over to Damion or Connor or anyone else who wants to come on stage. You know, how did that audio resonate with you and about addressing the nations, not even just the 5 civilized tribes, but addressing the world that you know the truth about what everyone's been hiding from you?
I'm gonna let Connor go first because my what I have to say kind of touches more so on real life than the actual movie.
Well, go ahead, Damon, because that's what I want. I want it to feel like real life a little bit because I'm trying to tie in real life with the movie, so
Uh,
it right into it. Go ahead.
I'm trying to figure out how to say this. So I know this dude, right? He repatriated in his tribe, not too long ago. And he's pretty much making a name for himself within Indian country, like real Indian country, not like on the internet or whatever. And, he be chopping it up, with the elders and the matriarchs and all of that stuff, in the different tribes throughout the Eastern Woodlands. And he tells me like, during the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even 90s, and a little bit up into the 2000s. And this is what he this is what he tells me. I'm not even saying that like I'm believing him on face value, but he tells me that a lot of these tribes, um, predominantly on the eastern woodlands, uh, where a lot of our people, a lot of our tribes come from, like he's telling me, you know, at one point they were contacting detribalized members, people that were labeled black, but many of them wasn't trying to hear that. During this conversation, you kind of making me think, I can't say that's really true. I can't really see that happening. I mean, he does admit some people was going back to their tribes, but like, I don't know, man. I feel like if somebody was to tell you that about your family, like, you know what, you guys have some lineage to our tribe. Are you curious and coming back to us and, you know, just at least if nothing else being protected by our nation. You know, as a black person, you don't have a nation per se, at least not like a home nation, something that feels like a community. um but that's basically what he told me, and now that I'm thinking about it, um I can't say many people would reject that. Obviously some people would, because you know a lot of our indigenous people are so pro black at this point. You know, it's like a lot of people are under a spell, so I could definitely see, you know, a number of people turning them down. But at this point, he says a lot of the tribes just stopped doing that. You know what I'm saying? And that kind of reminded me of how I felt, you know, when I talked to people about our people's history. Like I kind of like fell back from talking to people about it so much, because at one point, you know, my mom would tell me, man, you talk about that stuff like all the time, like you don't talk about nothing else. But to me it's like there really is nothing else to talk about. Like, what am I going to talk about? The fucking weather or politics or fucking sports or like or girls or some shit? Like none of that is like half, like an eighth as important as what we need to be doing or what we need to be focused on in terms of our families. And these tribes are our families. I'm not even talking about the people in the tribes, just the tribe as an entity itself. So when you turn that back into the when you go back into the movie with that, it's like um this is really his people that he's talking to, that Killmonger is talking to, and you know, letting him know that he know the truth. mm, I don't even know where I was going with that point, but I just wanted to say that, you know what I'm saying? Like is very similar, you know, to what can go on in our case, you know what I mean? Like uh Indian country, I already know what time it is, man. But you know, a lot of people put up this charade, you know, or like when we come out the woodwork and treat us like, you know, oh, we mixed with the tribe. Like, nah, y'all niggas is mixed with the tribe. We mixed with multiple tribes, if anything, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I land on that. I don't know if I even made my point, but yeah, I'm done.
All right, thank you for that, Connor. I don't know if you want to hop in there, or anyone in the audience want to hop on stage. This is an interactive conversation, so I would love to hear other people's opinions on, you know,
Don't be shy now, people. Come on.
right. I know when it comes to banging on immigrants, people be loud and proud, but
Oh man.
when it comes time to talk about how to repatriate, or how to restitute, or how to use the media and how they may be subliminally telling stories, everybody get quiet. But that's another story. Um, but yeah, I definitely agree with you that a lot of people, they know what's up. These tribes understand there's certain last names and that are connected to them, and I don't see them doing enough of the work to find them. In fact, they'll harass other people for not actually making a way to get inside of the tribe instead of them helping people who are literally helpless, people who are literally drowning in economic debt, people who are going through their own ethnocide. Yeah, I don't see a lot of responsibility. I do see a lot of gatekeeping, a lot of bullying, and that's a story for another day. But with that audio and with that being said, that's what influenced me. Looking at it from a different perspective is that this is time with the American Negro who does not have a chance to sit at the UN, but they get a chance to actually voice their opinions and voice to say, listen, hey, listen, if you could have provided my people with the tools that they needed to liberate themselves, this would have happened a long time ago. But you didn't want to do it because actually my demise is your uprise. That's how that goes. So I definitely resonated with that clip because I've always felt that a lot of people actually they monetize the failure of a lot of us American people. They love to see us at the bottom. Without
Definitely.
us, yeah, because without us being at the bottom, we make they can't make no money, honey. Okay.
And you know what? I don't even really see this scene as like the United Nations, right? Because this is still within Wakanda, so it's kind of like he's addressing all of Indian country, or at least just those five so-called civilized tribes. So this is
Yeah, that's why I
before,
turned it off.
yeah, this is before you even get out into the world and represent yourself as a nation and you dealing with other countries and continents and doing trade. That so yeah, I kind of view this as more so Indian country.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
would
how
say the
I
United
thought
States
about
as
it.
well.
Um, a tribal council meeting, but more so speaking on more of a broad level, right? Because it's not just the five civilized tribes that's involved; it's the world that gets off on the failure of the Black American. It's not is when you think about the bigger picture of this, it's everybody has their hands in the cookie jar in the failure of a lot of our people here in America, right? So
And you
that's
know
why.
what? I and this is just like a small anecdote of my day. Like earlier, I stopped by like this little Asian beauty store. You know how they be in all the so called black communities. I stopped by Asian beauty store and I got some Aztec healing clay, and we know Aztec healing clay. That's a company owned or that was started by a white woman, and just like the feeling I had, I was like, I felt like I was playing into my own colonization like twice over, and it won't nothing but like a little $10-11 worth in a little jar, but just the principle, you know what I'm saying? That shit kind of made me feel like shit, and that's just
Yeah,
a
I definitely feel you on that. I mean, a lot of our so-called black-owned hair care products, even the Indian hemp. Because now a lot of people don't know that Indian hemp is a grease that a lot of us used to use back in the day, but people never really did the knowledge to understand what is Indian hemp. And it's an actual plant. It's something that a lot of us indigenous people used to use for our skin and for our hair. And that has an African continent. I don't know if you ever seen the Indian hemp grease, but if you
I
look
know
at
what you're talking about. I know.
yeah, if go y'all go Google Indian hemp hair grease, and you're gonna see they have an African continent for the logo of the company that issues this particular product out.
Further wiping us out. Here we come once again. Oh man.
I'm like, what would Africa have to do? And they literally call it Indian hemp. That's the irony of it. At least they didn't change the name. It's called Indian
Yeah,
hemp.
just like the Indian cornmeal with a whole Indian on there. And I ain't talking about
Right.
Native American. You know, like one of my dang cousins. I'm just saying. Make that make sense.
yeah, I seen that before. I just walked by some in the store today.
Yep, Indian hemp grease, but somehow, some way they correlated with Africa. I have no idea why they keep doing this, but it is what it is at this point. Until we make our own products, that's just how the narrative gonna go.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
So the next scene, the next tweet in my threads I did was the kill Mongols or kill Monger. So me, what I did, I just kind of took it like a play on words, right? Could mean either way. Because if I'm telling an American story, I could say this means kill mongrels or a killmonger. And you have to look up what is the etymology of a monger. I'm going to go ahead and post this to the top of the room.
Hey, that's the gem of the whole thread. Cause you could say it either way. You could say to kill the Mongolians or to kill a slave owner, and that's really like what, like two to three different groups of people in America. The obviously both sets of Europeans, the pale skinned so-called Caucasian and European Negro, and then you got the usurpers, the Siberian, Russian, European amount. Like, I don't even be knowing what to call some of these people at this point, man. Like they just created their own identities and took on other people's shit.
Yeah, they
Right.
gotta find a home, man. They gotta find a home. They don't want them over there. They gotta find a home. Make that make sense. So they gotta take ours. That's what all they're doing.
Yep. And I did hear that they cannot go. It's almost kind of sounds like the white South Africans and how they can't go back to where they came from. They just stuck. Yeah. So
Well,
the
we want to return them to sender when we get organized. I'm sorry, no
mhm.
disrespect.
Yeah. So the kill Mongols, right? And this is not a threat for anyone because I don't want this to be taken out of context. We are just breaking down, based upon an American story, a theory of mine about was there a war for America before the European and even the Spaniard arrived? Was there already a brewing war? And I think that's the gray area of American history. We never get to quite learn about pre civilizations before the Spaniards came. And what we do know, you hear about the Incas, you hear about the Aztecs, you hear about the Olmecs, the Mayans, but you don't necessarily hear about the North American. What were they really doing at this time period? And we know that it was not all peaches and goddamn cream, right? Because they do this with Africa too, where it's like where there's a gray area in history, they just assume that it was like everybody was getting along. That's not true, right? We know that there were always wars. Tribes can be very tribal to where there will be some type of miscommunications and trading and things happen. I know that there are multiple Montezuma sites. You have a Montezuma site in Arizona. I believe there's one in Utah. There's also a Montezuma site in New York City as well. Sorry, not New York City, but New York State. New York State. There is a Montezuma up here. So that makes you wonder how far did the Montezumas and the Aztecs really get into North America, right? In this gray area of history. So here was my theory and why I kind of I was drifting off and I was like, hmm. Well, we know that his last name is Killmonger, right? That has a meaning. So the director or the illustrator, whoever it is that made the character Killmonger, he had a meaning on why he made that name. He didn't just give him the name for no reason, right? So I broke it down. So the first route I went was to kill Mongols, right? So I'm going to read this and then I'm going to go into the next theory of the killmonger, right? So kill Mongols. Mongolians slash Siberians who migrated into America but weren't allowed to pass the Appalachian Mountains without war with the Eastern Woodland Indians. There were invaders from the west. And you'll see that in the photos I have on one side what Mongolians look like, and then on the other side I have a picture of an Eastern Woodland Indian, right? Two different types of phenotypes, right? So one of the things that is a misconception is that everybody in America is Asian. If you are Native American, if you're American Indian, you had to look Asian. One thing that we do know coming out of Eastern Woodland tribes is that people over here don't look like people in the West at all. Like we don't look nothing like them people over there, don't look nothing like us. And that whole theory, it doesn't work. Because then right? So what was it about the Appalachian Mountains that were very important? And the reason why I pointed out Appalachian Mountain, because I know there was a treaty. The British Crown had a treaty with the Indians that they would not pass the Appalachian Mountains, that anything east of the Appalachian Mountains will remain the 13 colonies. Now, the British colonists, though, they're going to be the ones that actually go beyond the Appalachian Mountain to the rest of the Midwest and to the Western tribes. Hence why we're going to get the westward expansion, hence why we get the Buffalo Soldiers, etc., etc., etc. And I'm just bringing all that up just to kind of show you how the Appalachian Mountains played a really good part, in separating East Coast tribes from everybody fucking else, okay? So, Damon, I'm gonna start with you. I see your hand raised before I continue. I'm gonna start with you, and then we'll go to Connor. Go ahead, Damon.
Hey, can you make me a co-host real quick? I think I see somebody we need to boot. Also,
Fine, because I'm recording from my YouTube, so it's okay.
all right, for sure. I wanted to say, damn, I lost my whole train of thought. Oh my goodness. What did you end on before you let me speak?
Yeah, we're talking about the Mongols, among the Siberians who couldn't pass the Appalachian Mountain.
Oh, you know what? When you brought up the Buffalo Soldiers, I kind of thought for a second, what if these people got a heavy Black European bloodline, and that's really the culture they grew up in. Because I think I've heard that some of them was Indians, but then I heard a chief say that they were Africans, but like a chief that looks like us said that they was African, but I don't particularly believe that either. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, you go ahead, Connor. I just wanted to throw that into the pot. I feel like these people could have been European as well.
Alrighty, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, don't forget the Southeast now. We weren't all Mongol looking either. I was just gonna add that real quick.
What's the Southeast is Eastern Woodland. The same thing.
Okay, okay. No, I got you now. I got what you.
Okay, that's it. Nobody got something to say? All right. All right, so let's get back into the Mongolians and the Siberians and who we call the so-called Native Americans today, and why do they play a big role in the gatekeeping of who gets to decide their American Indian lineage is going to be acknowledged. So I'm going to read this next tweet. It says, later the Mongols will be used by the East to gatekeep the American Indian from the ancient tribes, further denying the American Negro to his inheritance. The Eastern Hemisphere has always wanted the spiritual and mystical land here. The real Black Panther is Eric Killmonger. So then I went on to showing the etymology of Eric, and then I showed the etymology of Monger, as I was telling y'all. And like I said, when people are making cartoons, as I am an artist myself, we always have a meaning while we give certain things the names that we give them. So when you look at the etymology of Eric etymology is an honored ruler. So a king, an honored ruler, honored ruler in Old Norse or Proto-Germanic. And then if you look at the etymology of a monger, so a monger can also be seen as a merchant, a trader, a broker. Down and below, you can also see that it is a slave dealer, right? So if he's a Eric, he's a ruler, he's a king, and he is the king of killing slave dealers, hence Killmonger, right? So I know that the man who wrote this comic book and create this character, he knew exactly what he was trying to say. He was trying to say that this American Indian or Killmonger, let's just say he's a Wakanda descendant, but he is a victim of the transatlantic slave trade, right? That's exactly what the basis underlined for that name and how I see it going. Because there's no way that you're going to put he's a killmonger, he's a kill slave dealer, but you're not trying to say that he didn't have some sort of slave story at some point, right? So once again, it kind of reminds me of like this distant cousin relationship between the American Negro and the African that everybody's always trying to make fit into one pot, right? I showed in the last tweet the invasion of the Americas, right? And why this was so important, because I wanted to show people that it wasn't just the British that came here and was doing their fuckery, okay? I wanted to show that it was also the Russians, also the Spaniards, the Portuguese, even the Asians. All these people are going to come and they are going to conquer, unfortunately, the indigenous, true Aboriginal people of these lands, right? And it makes you wonder, and it makes me wonder as I've been studying, was there sort of agreement? Now, in this, let me post it to the top so y'all can see what I'm talking about. And shout out to my map, because I made that map, y'all. So shout out to my map. All right, so I posted it to the top. This is the Treaty of Tordesillas. And if you know about this treaty, you know that this was a treaty between the Portuguese and the Spaniards, which was chartered by the crowns, that the Portuguese should not colonize any lands that the Spanish is already colonizing, right? And vice versa. So that's why they drew an imaginary line through the Atlantic Ocean, even though the Portuguese still wanted to take Brazil. So you'll see the line is kind of pushed back a little bit because it was supposed to be slap in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, but they actually went back and they pushed the line a little bit more because the Portuguese wanted to do their trading between West Africa and Brazil, right? That's what we know. So the Spaniards were going to take the Caribbean, Central America, parts of North America, parts of South America, and etc. Right? So we know that there was on this side of things between the Portuguese and the Spaniards, there was definitely some sort of agreement on how to colonize the Americas. Definitely. But what was the role of the Russian? Because the Russians are going to come through Alaska and they're going to come through Alaska into Canada. And then from Canada down to Washington, from Washington down to Northern California. And they will actually get into a war with the Spaniards because the Spaniards were where? They were already in California, right? So the Spaniards, they came in through Mexico and they started coming up to take California. So once the Russians are going to lose that war, Spaniards are going to remain complete control out of California, right? And this is before the British even starts their westward expansion. We know that in the middle of America were who? The French. So right there in the Midwest is the French. The French is right there in the middle. And then on your eastern seaboard is the British, right? So you see in all different angles, you're colonized, you're cornered, right? And what's really, really messed up about this, y'all, before I'm going to go to Connor, I see your hand raised. What's messed up about this, though, is that when the British Crown made the treaty that they were not going to cross the Appalachian Mountains because the rest of America was supposed to remain Indian country, right? So that was an agreement that the British Crown made. And that's why you had the American Revolutionary War and yeah. All right. But anyways, but what's messed up about that treaty is that while they were making that treaty, guess who was in the middle though? The French though. So how are you going to promise that something's going to remain to be Indian country when the French is already colonizing, literally, the middle of the country, right? So that's how you know, once again, was this a formulated, calculated plan to attack the Americas all at once, right? And of course, you throw in your Africans, because the Africans were always in the military to push on the invasion, the pillaging, the raping, the killing that had to go on in these different lands. Okay, but I'm gonna go on to Connor, and then we'll finish up that thought. Go ahead, Connor.
Oh no, I was gonna add too. When we talk about California, the Russians, they weren't just fighting these other European groups. They was fighting the Indians that they was setting up treaties, taking the land from to a degree. We got to add that as well, and that includes some of like the Khalifian tribes and even those Northern California tribes as well. So we got to put that out there too, because there was indigenous people obviously there and they weren't all Mongol looking either. You know, people could just look up what a Khalifian looks like or some of the tribes in Northern California, the original origins, and you'll see them, you know, copper colored and etc. I also wanted to bring up two, kind of talking about the Mayans, you know, with the talking about comic books. Sorry to get off Marvel a little bit, but in the Wonder Woman 1984, they go to a Mayan deity that supposedly is responsible for destroying their culture. And Wonder Woman had to go to a so-called Mayan shaman who was like he was like a Mongol kind of copper color looking brother, and he was giving her the real story about this artifact that this scientist and this rich man, and he was rich as well, that this guy was playing with. He was getting all his wishes, and the artifact was benefiting him, but in return, it was like taking his life, and it was messing with the planet, and she had to do certain things because she played with it too for a wish, and it came with a price. And we know Wonder Woman, who that's really depicting, Khalifa, and XYB, yeah, with Wonder Woman, yeah, the leader of the Amazon, the women tribe, the warriors, yeah, right. Tell it, come on, let's bring it now. I always like talking about the Khalifians because we know it goes to Wonder Woman, which is basically protecting Queen Khalifa, as well as the suit at the end she wore. They said it was an eagle, but it looks like a griffin suit. Long story short, it's pure gold, and they talk about one of their first ancestors wore it to protect herself from man, and I kind of found that interesting. Yeah, with the Caliph, with like that Wonder Woman story.
Oh wow! There you have it. Yes, we can't forget about the Calithians, but they're going to contact with the Spanish, right? They
Yeah,
definitely
you're right too. The Spanish.
right. So that's what I was saying about these different nations that are going to come. This is all coincidentally, they all come at one time. They all taking little pieces of bits of land. They're all making illegal land purchases between each other. Just all this nonsense is going on. Whole time the American Negroes left in limbo, right? That's going to be the aftermath of all this. And then there's going to be others that's going to be in the tribe who's going to gatekeep who gets to be back in the tribe, while the American Negro at a larger number continues to have their lands taken by eminent domain. How do we know that, and how we can actually prove that? Well, I encourage y'all to research. 1 million Black families lost multi-millions of acres of land, and since the 1900s. And I know that a few of us, we have broken down the Reconstruction era and why it was so important to get these people out of their rightful birthright to keep their lands, right? But if you look at actually what's going to happen in the 1900s, all these Black families mysteriously are going to lose their land. Okay. So how that happen? And first off, let's do the math. How do you get millions, and we're talking about millions of Black families in the South, have land? You're going to tell me that they all got it out of slavery? Huh? I want everybody to close their eyes and imagine what 1 million people look like. And then times that by like 2. Yeah. So we got to start making this make sense, right? So these millions of Black families are going to lose all their land by eminent domain. On top of that, they lose their tribal rights to be in certain tribal nations. Now what? Now where are we? Now we're in a situation where we are just Black and landless. Yeah. That's the situation for a lot of us. So you have people like shout out to the people of Mason, Tennessee, who are still fighting to not become another set of a generation that maybe face eminent domain soon. So we know that this has not stopped. It's still going on, but they are still trying to conquer land. So we have a new speaker on the stage, and we actually are going to go into the Aztec, the new the Mayan warrior that's actually going to be in the Black Panther 2. And we're going to talk about what is the connection between Black Panther and the Mayan warrior that they're going to put in the movie. But hello, Aztec, welcome to the stage.
God bless.
Yeah, you want to go ahead and chime in on any thoughts about the Black Panther? We pretty much were breaking down my theory on it being a very subliminal story about the Americas, in my viewpoint, and how the American Negro lost its birthright to its homeland right underneath its feet.
Well, you better pay attention to some of the laws that are getting passed in California. There are laws that are getting passed that are going to hurt the indigenous people of California, the Indians, that are going to hurt the casinos that they have there because of all of the online betting platforms like um, the online gaming that they can do. You place
Yeah.
bets on that is going to hurt all of the indigenous people of our country, and they're going to lose revenue, and there's going to be some serious consequences to the people of those individual nations that have casinos.
Oh wow, wow. So what are you saying? I mean, as we move more and towards, I know
Vote
everything is
against it. That's what I'm saying. Vote
right,
against it because that's going to hurt them. If you
right,
can just vote from your cell phone, that's revenue that's lost from all of these indigenous casino tribes people that are all around the San Diego County. It's going to hurt them.
right, right. And what about the tribes voting to help their descendants get into their tribe? Have they ever tried voting on that?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat? I didn't understand.
Yeah, I said, what about the tribes voting to get their descendants back into their tribes? Have they ever collectively went and voted on that?
Yeah, like the 40 million plus detribalized citizens.
Hold on, Damon. Hold on.
Well, they definitely need to do something. I'm telling you because any revenue that's lost from these people is just added on to the atrocities that's already happened to them.
Yeah. Well, I wish them the best of luck, with their casinos. It's very unfortunate. I know, and trust me, I know not every tribe has a casino. It's only like a few that really makes a lot of money off these casinos.
Right. But the revenues that come from the casinos really goes back into the community. It helps lots of people, and it is overlooked how much it provides health care. It provides lots of support for some of the community members in those reserves.
Okay.
Is it true that those casinos are like tied to the mafia or something like that? I've been meaning to look into that.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, they're still
I'm just
investigating it
asking the question.
supposedly.
I'm just
No,
asking.
no. I mean, it's possible, but I mean, no. Come on.
Come on, what? It's a simple question. Either you know
I
or you
mean,
don't know.
listen. I'm not going to tell you for sure no,
Either
but
you
I'm going to
know
tell
or you
you.
don't know. That's
I'm
simple.
going to tell you that I have many people that I know that are members of the Siquan Nation and the Barona Nation in San Diego. That I mean, that would be shocking for me to hear.
Yeah, no, I think you conflating stories. The mob had to do with the casinos in Las Vegas big time to this day, and even the building of Las Vegas. But that's separate
I'm
from.
not even conflating. I just asked the question. That's all it
Well,
was.
I'm just clarifying for you, brother. That's two different casino stories of
Appreciate that.
origin.
Thank you.
Well, but they are investigating, some of the casinos. You know what I'm saying? Not just the ones in Vegas, though, because you understand the casino thing. It's a big market, with the machines and the alcohol and all that. It ties to
And
a
there's
lot of different things.
corruption
So
everywhere.
they're
Let's be honest.
investigating it. Yeah, there's corruption everywhere, and that's what basically Damien was kind of saying. But yeah, the brother they are investigating it though,
Nah, I
Damien.
wasn't even
From what I
saying
know, yeah.
I wasn't saying that. It's a simple question. I heard something and I asked the question and I said, I'm going to look into it. That's it.
I got you. I got you. Me too. I'm looking into it as well because I hear things just like you.
Okay, so Aztec, what are your views about the Black Panther movie? Did you see the movie?
I don't usually go see movies. I'm sorry. I have not seen it. I don't mean to be lame or nothing. I just haven't seen it.
Can I
Uh,
can I ask what interested you
uh,
in this room?
yeah, I was gonna ask that question. Hold on, Damon. Yeah, why did you enter my particular space? Because that's what we're talking about Black Panther the movie.
I mean, I can see myself out, but I just wanted to contribute in any way I can.
Well, I don't think telling us about casinos was contributing, but thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, God bless.
All right. There you have it. Casinos. Make sure y'all vote so they keep their casinos, y'all, while you guys are homeless, jobless, landless, trying to get your nation back.
Exactly. Someone don't want you in their tribe.
Yeah.
Okay, like that's why I just don't, Yeah, and like I said, it's being investigated. I wouldn't say there's fully like charges dropped in some of the casinos we was talking about. There has been a couple, one or two I heard now they've hit the hammer on, but the rest is still being investigated and looked into. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think we got BT on the stage. I know that's you. I know the voice. In anywhere I go, I know you.
Man,
And you better. Hey, you talking about?
I know. I
from
know.
Clubhouse to Twitter. Oh boy.
Yes, my presence is known across platforms, just
Oh.
like you all's.
The
Oh.
Yes.
Watcher.
Well, what's your thoughts? Did you see the Black Panther movie? What you think about the movie? You don't have to talk about my theory, but just what the movie period. What was your opinions about it?
Yeah, it's a great movie. I think they held true to a lot of stuff. I got to hear more of your theory. I looked at the video you put as far as the Killmonger breakdown. I need to research that a little more because I was just going by the definition of monger, but Mongol, and I see that with the etymology and the suffix. I'm not. It could make sense, but I'm gonna read and come back and challenge you first.
Okay.
I like that breakdown too. It's kind of
That
like
was
a
good.
play on words. It might not mean that, but they might have used it because of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you will have some smoke. Just give me. I'm gonna try to do it now. Actually.
Oh, when I put this thread out, I put this out back in March. Oh, when I tell y'all the Africans were so upset, it's not an American story. I said, "Well, honey, it's just a damn theory." Golly, can I theorize?
Well, we know it's not African either. Like that's a
Yeah, there's
fact.
no Jaguars or Black Panthers in Africa. I just can't. I'm done with. It's just crazy. It's like look at the animals you're dealing with. The so-called Wakanda. You're dealing with him going to ancestor realm. Those are panthers and jaguars. He was going to go see. Even T'Chaka, his father, wore a jaguar suit, and then T'Challa wore the Black Panther one. Which was somewhat of a conflict because some of the elders felt, even in the comic, he should have took the Jaguar one, like his father and forefathers. But once again, they like to conflate things because of how Marvel, so-called, these other people write the movie trying to place it in Africa. But it has nothing to do with the animals, none of the spirits he was interfacing with, other than the leopard one, which actually was a villain. I'm gonna tell y'all something. There's one of the comics, right? And they were actually gonna look into getting actors for this, and even like Robert Downey back possibly for a cameo in Black Panther 2 if Chadwick Boseman would have stayed alive, right? This is another reality, right? Talking about freaking CERN earlier, right? You like this. So Chadwick Boseman, Robert Downey Jr., just like in the comic book, Iron Man and Black Panther basically go head to head against the leopard goddess that is foreign to Wakanda. Yeah, you kind of get where that's going. And the leopard we know is in Africa and in Asia and then in America, and he's one of a big T'Challa's new enemy. And also, guess what, Shan? Guess who she was connected? She was connected to Killmonger. And the sister, right? One of the best people supposedly in the comic book. That sister looked like Tiana Taylor playing the leopard goddess.
Yeah.
So I kind of found that interesting too. And people were making reference to her on Instagram like 3-4 years ago when they were doing talks about what the next Black Panther movie be. But we know Chadwick Boseman is gone, and now they're kind of going to the Namor narrative, which is kind of different from the comic book because the leopard
Cool.
goddess came
Can
first.
we
But
wake
that's that. What's
it up?
up?
Can we wake it up about Namor? And I want to read something real quick. And then I know Connor, I know you probably know a little bit more about the character, so I'm gonna read something real quick. It says Namor is a half Atlantean. Did I say that right? Atlantean. Sorry, no, I said ATL. Like,
Atlantean, you're right. You're Atlantean. That's kind of like
hey,
Arthur of Marvel
Atlanta,
Universe. Yeah.
Georgia. Okay, Namor is a half Atlantean and half human man with pointed ears and a flat head. He was born in 1915 of the forbidden relationship between Princess Finn, the daughter of King Takor of Atlantis, and the American Captain Leonard Mackenzie. Okay, so all right, so he is really supposed to be he's a Mayan anti-hero. But what is the connection between the Mayans and Atlantis? Because he's also half Atlantean.
Hey, Shan, do
Uh-oh.
you know some of the Aztec and Maya stories where they say they come from? You know, at least in the mythos of the movie, or even Quetzalcoatl, because this goes back to, we already know the spiritual system, the Four Corners story, right? How they, went there from Atlantis and Lemuria. They met up in the Four Corners. It goes to that kind of mythos. I would like more of the real story, you know what I'm saying? From like a medicine man or woman, as well as so-called a shaman, what you gonna call them, just for Twitter's sake, right? Um, so I would like that story more from like the people down there, but in the mythos they say they come from Atlantis, and also Lemuria, kind of even like so-called what they call Kim as well. So I feel like that's what that really is right there, and that warrior energy too, just like even like looking at the Maya Aztec mythos, it just seems very Atlantean to me. It feels very familiar. That's all I have to say with that one. Because the Atlanteans are very much warriors, fighters, and to their detriment too, sadly. Yeah, you know. And I was the one warning them, doing too
So
much of
were
that
the
fighting before it pay off.
Atlantans, were they native? And if so, where to?
Oh, the Atlanteans. Um, so the Atlanteans are made out of many different like people beyond even humans, I like to say. So I'm not even go to that origin. That's something I'm still even finding out, because that goes to my star lineage as well. And we just know the Atlanteans of many different people, and they came from beyond this planet, as well as some that were on the planet, indigenous to the planet. And that's where, that's still to me speculatory, because even these elite don't even know the origins of Atlantis, even though they claim they come from there. And I'm not even going to get to that foolishness, but whatever. They can
So
do
you
what they want to
tying
do.
it into like saying they're an Anunnaki or mixed with indigenous, or because
No,
I'm actually not
I
mad
don't
at
want to share my
that you
personal
said.
opinion on that. With the Anunnaki, I'm not going to do that because I ain't trying to cause an uproar in this room
Hey,
in
Connor,
the audience.
you know what I was thinking? It kind of was like, because I always got to take it back to metaphysics if we talking Atlantis or Atlanteans. Um, you know how like it's said that like the universe is really like a woman, and it's like it's starting off as a thought, like as consciousness. It's not like a quote unquote big bang or anything. It's just consciousness
Yeah,
expanding upon itself. So if we know Atlantis is within the mind, um, I'm thinking this is just the the mythos explanation of where the indigenous people here, specifically dealing with the She Olmec Aztec Mayan empires, is coming from, as far as how do I want to say, like from like a realm of being birthed. So it's like I don't know, because I haven't really thought it through. But as far as tying it back to the mythos, I think that's just like a different representation of just saying you coming from the stars, because as we know, a lot of our tribes origin stories do have to do with the stars.
Yeah, especially with the Palladians, I've heard that a lot on
Yeah, for
some of the
sure.
East Coast tribes. And it's funny not to do this, but they were tied to Atlantis too. Now, I'm not going to get into what I got told for my briefings about them. You know what I'm saying? Because some of them broke off and some stay with the tradition. So I don't like to get into Palladians too much, but they definitely have a hand in Atlantis as well as, I don't want to do this, but I'll put them out there. The Lyrans as well. And I'm, with them, I'm personally cool with them, but I do know they do certain things that just interrupt the balance sometimes. So sometimes they got to be like put in check, I guess, by other higher powers above even them. So yeah, the Lyrans, they're very interesting. And certain conspiratorial people have spoke on their interface with them, as well as even I've interfaced with them. And I'm not going to go too deep into that, but they're tied to Atlantis as well. Yep.
Yeah, that because people like to talk about it from like a physical, terrain aspect, and I'm not mad at that. But me personally, I always got to tie Atlantis into like something that deals with like the stars or metaphysics.
Most definitely.
Yeah, or just mythology altogether.
Yeah, I would say mythology. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. But it definitely still the land realm too. I say both.
Facts for sure, for sure.
Wow, I'm agreeing with Indians. This is crazy.
Child, please. Let's do a quick room reset.
Yeah, let's do the reset. Come
We're
on.
talking about the Black Panther movie in America. And I gave a breakdown. We've been going at it for about an hour, 2 hours now, breaking down my thread. You can actually see bits and pieces of it as you scroll through the Jumbotron at the top, where I basically correlated the American history a little bit with the Black Panther movie from an American perspective, not just an African perspective. And one of the things that we didn't really get to delve into, which we can now, being that we're kind of getting into that Wakanda thing, Atlantean thing, let's talk about the real Wakandas and where Wakanda is really located. There is no Wakanda in Africa, but there are multiple Wakandas in North America. So I don't know if Connor or Damon, if one of you all want to start, and I'm going to post up the links of the real Wakandas in America.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that, Shan?
Yeah, I missed it too.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was saying if one of you all, you or Connor, or someone wants to start on the Wakanda, what you know about the Wakandas in America, I'm going to post up the links to for people to learn about the real Wakanda inside North America.
Oh yeah. I think I spoke on it like maybe like 20 minutes ago. Um, to my very little bit of knowledge, I got a half a cent of information, as our brother Backforce Mine likes to say. Um, that was a big hub for indigenous people in North America. Um, the Wakanda Springs in Kansas, I believe. Yes, in Kansas. But we also got like a city called Wakanda in Illinois. But the spring in Kansas, that was a big hub for different tribes. I believe it was in the Kansas Indian Territory, which is now modern day Kansas. Um, it's a lot of spiritual implications dealing with that territory and that lake. Um, I've yet to dig into that, but that's what I know so far.
What
Um,
lake?
Go ahead.
What lake?
It's in Kansas, Wakanda Springs.
So I posted Wakanda Springs at the top of the screen, guys. You can look it up there. And they have different ways you can spell Wakanda. In fact, we've actually, or I know I've actually spoke to a lot of the some of the Lakota people, Sioux people from that region, and they actually use Wakanda sometimes in the place of saying Amen. So let me go ahead and remove that. All right. So actually, when they pray, they actually would say Wakanda instead of saying Amen. And the Wakanda just means that it's a higher power, a greater spirit or power. It's kind of like basically saying like a god. in a sense, right? So I'm gonna just read a little bit about what I wrote about Wakanda and how this can also play into the Black Panther movie, right? Because these Wakandas have always been here um, from the early 1800s when they were discovered by the British, by the Dutch, and etc. So we know that when the Marvel movies were created, Wakanda was already something that people knew about. So it's not something that just came out the blue and they just named it that because of the movie. No, no, no. So I'm going to read. It says Wakanda or Wakanta is an American Indian spiritual higher power. Wakanda Springs, in a location in Illinois, a large saltwater spring that was believed to have spiritual and healing powers. The spirit of an Indian chief's death is believed to dwell in the springs, right? So, I mean, a lot of people do not know that there's actual Wakandas here. Well, and it was very interesting that when the Black Panther movie actually came out, the city of Wakanda was telling people, we have nothing to do with the movie. We have nothing to do with the movie. I guess because a lot of people started to, a lot of tourists started traveling there so that they can get pictures at this particular place. But what they did not tell the public, and only those will know who study, is that there is a mystical water. And this will be a part of the waters that they said were like your fountains of youth. And we know that we used to hear these stories where they were looking for the seven cities of gold and they were looking for the fountains of youth. Now, there is a place in Florida where they say they found the fountains of youth, but they don't talk about the Wakanda Springs, Lake Minnetonka, and the Finger Lakes, and many other sacred waters that are believed to have spiritual and healing powers, where a lot of the tribes will actually meet, right? So, I don't know if Connor, if you want to hop in there about the Wakandas or the spiritual waters that are here throughout North America that is not found anywhere else in the world.
No, I definitely, when you talk about the waters, I'm in the state with 10,000 lakes. So Lake Minnetonka, you're definitely right. And those people up there fought until they had to just really give it somewhat up in the treaty. And we all know Prince talk about Lake Minnetonka, right? A lot of people till this day go to the lake, including even us, some of our people in the southeast and everybody else that's up here in Minnesota. To go to that lake and you party, you turn up. It's like one of the turn up spots in Minnesota. You're not Minnesotan if you ain't been to Lake Minnetonka before. I'm just saying, you're not a native, right? Native to Minnesota, so-called the state. If you haven't been to Lake Minnetonka before, I wouldn't know you then. I'm like, you're not from Minnesota because I've even been there once, right? Actually, a couple times, and that's what it is. So certain lakes up here, are very just well known, and they're very beautiful, especially the ones outside the city. Sadly, Lake Minnetonka is just a mess, and they're still trying to clean it up but because it's in the city. But otherwise, there's other lakes up here, man. There's even a lake where like tribal lands are at. These Indians up here. Some of these Siouan tribes, they're up there. So Minnesota has a rich history with the lakes. I'm actually looking to learn more even about my area because even that Lake Minnetonka story you told got me really inspired to want to look more into who was really here around these lakes. Because we know like water is life. And life has power. And it's very, very powerful. Water itself. It's a very powerful, great spirit. So as a American Indian, I definitely do my due diligence, and I was kind of talking on Clubhouse about this to give proper thanks, respects, and everything to the lakes and to the waters, because it is life, something that we should respect.
You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of the cenotes that you find in Mexico. Because I've actually been to the cenotes where you have to go underground to the waters. And this is where a lot of your rituals will occur. And it's believed that underneath the waters is where you can reach the underworld. So I don't know if anyone ever has heard about the cenotes and how they
The
were.
water panther, yep.
Yeah, how they were actually
Yo,
rituals. Yeah, go ahead, Connor.
I just thought about that, right? When like so-called T'Challa was battling that white leopard or panther. I really think it was a panther, but the comics right is a leopard. Whatever. It came out the water and it was to, devour T'Challa and his lineage for their sins, right? Which what was their sins? Even T'Challa in the movie, he kind of said, all of you, the ancestors, he told them they're all wrong, for keeping everything hidden and not really trying to help the outside world as much. Um, and that's why over the years you've had attempts, and some of them were successful. Claw, but first Tony Stark's father, stealing the vibranium because you're not looking to share it. You're just going to hoard all that power over there, right? Someone's going to come knock on your door or sneak in and get it, right? No matter how sophisticated technology is, it's just meant to be, because you're looking like a bunch of greedy people. That's how the outside world looks at them, right? That do really know who they really are. So that's why they try to hide it and try to make themselves look third world. But we know the world and people in the know the truth. So long story short, the Water Panther even was shown in the animated show and some of the comic books. That wow, I just see, this is our story. I just be like, wow, something. And it came from the underworld too, by the way,
Hey,
under the waters, and it would devour certain spirits. And T'Challa as the Panther, which it's funny, even in the comic book, not to keep going into it, he eventually, after that battle, learned how to command the ancestors. Literally, like Bast made him the leader of the ancestor realm, and he could command certain ancestors to turn into panthers and come as spirits and get people. Yeah, kind of a interesting necromancy kind of power, but it's just interesting nonetheless, just to put that out there. But that Water Panther thing, that just really got me. I'm like, dang it, this makes me want to go watch the show again, just to pick up on that.
that's why I love watching these movies from like different perspectives, right? Because you can watch it from one perspective, like let's say you could watch it from the American Negro story of a victim of chattel slavery, right? And then you could see that it makes sense. But then you could watch it from, okay, what about this being an African empowerment story? And then you can see that story. But then you get around us, you get around me, I'm going to say look at it from American perspective. What about the American Negro that is indigenous? And how does this relate to his story? And that's where, I got my idea from, was to look at it from a different lens. And you start seeing that, wait a minute, the Wakanda with the mystical power that you can only see if you call on its name, it's right here in North America. And no one talks about it, right? I also posted to the top of the Jumbotron. So we're talking about mystical waters that have magic abilities. I posted up the Finger Lakes. And what's ironic is that your boy, Hunter Biden, has the Finger Lakes tattooed on his back. All right. So if you actually look at that tweet I posted at the top, you will see that each of these lakes is actually named after each indigenous tribe. This is actually located in upstate New York, the Finger Lake region. Some of the most notable people who lived along the Finger Lakes was Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman. Didn't I tell you about that Ross clan? Didn't I tell you about that Ross clan? And for anyone who's not in the know, Harriet Tubman's real name is Araminta Ross, who comes out of the Ross Stewart clans that come out of the Black nobility of Europe. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. But if you read the top part and why the Finger Lakes is just as important as Wakanda as it is important as Lake Minnetonka, it says just like Wakanda, Finger Lakes holds many mysteries. Located in New York, it is known as a holy place of mystic water, a place of legends. To the Native Americans, this was a place of mystery and beauty. So great was their love for their home. It was believed to have been handcrafted by the Creator himself. The legend goes, the Finger Lakes came into being when the Great Spirit looked upon this land with special flavor and reached down to bless it, leaving the imprint of his hand, right? And a lot of freaky things have been like, I guess, a lot of conspiracy theories with the Finger Lakes. You've heard people, I don't know, we can get to that, but there has been stories of certain rituals. People ended up missing at the Finger Lakes. Yeah, that's a conversation for another day. But it is one of the holy places here in North America where a lot of people, a lot of powerful people, come to do their due diligence. You know who also was at the Finger Lakes? A lot of people don't know. The goddamn KK. All right, KKK. And what was very ironic about the KKK, they tried to do meetings at the Finger Lakes. And I'm actually going to post up how they failed. Every time they were supposed to do a parade, something would go wrong with the parade. Would either get like the weather would be wrong, shit would get blown around, and it would never really become into fruition. So I think that was probably the Great Spirit letting them know, hey, we not doing all that on this land. But you'll see in the tweet I posted to the top about Geneva, New York. Do we know about Geneva Convention? All right, conversation for another day. Geneva, New York, and the Finger Lakes, and the KKK rally in Geneva in October 1925. And you will see that every time the Klansmen tried to set up their events or parades, unforeseen events occurred. And I actually posted a video, that video at the top where you can watch. It comes from a YouTube channel that was talking about how the KKK were very unsuccessful in forming in the New York region, and they were trying to harness the power of the Great Lakes, and it just didn't work. All right. Now, right, Connor, it didn't work. They tried, but it failed. The Great Spirit.
Congratulations. Man, them ancestors were not going as well as those higher spirits. They're like, nope, go somewhere else, you filthy creatures. Oh, man.
Yeah, the Great Spirit said, try that somewhere else. It ain't gonna stop here. But why this is all important, right? We can take it back to Christopher Columbus. Let's talk about Christopher Columbus, the Portuguese Jew, right? And I know a lot of people don't know that part of Christopher Columbus because they only know him as the Italian that was supposed to come and explore the New World, but they don't know that he was an undercover agent, as a lot of these people that were coming from Europe were. They came here, they changed their names, but they were on missions. I encourage everyone to read a book called Columbus, the Portuguese Jew, and the journey to Jerusalem, right? Christopher Columbus was not lost, right? You can't get lost on a current. Right, let's make it make sense. You cannot go on a current that clearly takes you straight from Portugal to the Caribbean and I got lost. No, that's how it not going to work. When he was on a ship with Moors, who was seafaring people, yeah,
Much less say you're in India, which didn't even exist at that time in that particular place. That was Hindustan and another name. So let's make
right.
that make sense too. That's why
And
that's a
they
lie as well.
had found a route to India. So they claimed that a route that they used to take was to travel along the coastal shelf of West Africa. So coming down North Africa, coming down West Africa, coming around to South Africa, up by Madagascar, and then straight into the sea over there to where they would hit India. So that was one route. Another route, they could have went through the Mediterranean, but the only reason why they didn't want to go through the Mediterranean is because they would get attacked by pirates, right? So they really were trying to find different ways to get to India. But when they were trying to come to America, they wanted to go around having to go to India just for resources. There were a lot of resources in America that were just untouched to the Eastern world, right? So when they were coming on this expedition, they sailed. They sailed straight on the current. If you look at a map of currents, you'll see that there's a direct current that takes you straight from Portugal right into the heart of the Caribbean, right? It takes you right into there. And that's how he landed. I believe it was in Bahamas first, right? So in their first encounters with the indigenous people, they did not come and just slaughter them. They actually were living amongst them for a while before they decided to overtake them. And they used an excuse. The excuse was always that we don't know if they're going to kill us first, so we're going to kill them first. No, you always wanted to kill them. You just wanted to find out what the treasures, the jewels were, because they have to get in good with the tribe. You can't just go in there killing and raping, because how would you know where everything is at? This stuff is
Yeah,
mounted.
that'll be a long process.
This stuff is
And that
mounted.
gold is valuable now.
Jungles, all types of stuff. You can't just walk in there and just find this stuff. No, you had to actually get acquainted with these tribes here. And once they've got somewhat of an acquaintance, they would then try to overthrow the tribes and enslave the tribes. Because I keep hearing people say they killed all the indigenous people off. Well, then how are they going to find more gold? Duh, you would have to enslave them and force them to mine. and go looking for the gold. You would have to force them in the sugar cane fields. You would have to force them to go shucking oysters, looking for pearls. This is what you would have to do to get the riches. You would not kill off your source to the gems that you needed.
Because
So
people are power and people are information, and information is power. So you're definitely right. Just like you were talking about with some of the tribes in South America. Oh, they're finding some of the other places that they couldn't find before because now these tribes are talking to them. Oh, they're finding more gold. They're finding these tombs and there's other places, and they reference to Tahuti sometimes, and other beings. Like, make that make sense. Like the giant, like yo, I like the deity they found of like a Batman, and I'm like, man, God, bruh, the dang Batman, he was a god in America. Come on, bro. Like,
talk
man, make
about
that
it.
make sense. Come on, man. Boy.
Talk
And then
about
we get to Batman, right? Who's in New York. He was adopted boy. He's kind of like the Tony Stark of, the DC universe, billions of dollars inherited to
not
him.
New York.
All have come out to trust. He has his own little compound. And
Not New York.
yeah, long story
It would
short. What up?
it would be Jersey. It's
Oh,
new.
you talking about Batman? Yeah,
Yeah,
Gotham City,
got
Jersey City.
Gotham
Yeah.
is yeah, Gotham City is Newark, New Jersey. Yeah.
Yeah, my bad. Yeah, but basically, because like how they even explain, like they go to Manhattan eventually in the This is the Batman movie. They go to Manhattan, they go to the island. And so I would say watch the movie for that one in particular, because they're reintroducing Batman because they got a new actor for him. This is the recent movie that just came out last year. I think it was early this year, last year, I think. And they kind of reference like Manhattan Island and what Batman has to do because these anarchist group are after him. And basically the dude kept repeating to Batman, your lineage that you got adopted to is going to get their karma, right? And I'm going to make Manhattan Island fall, which he attempted to do. He blew the sea levees and all this crazy stuff. The dude was insane. He was studying his lineage because the dude was a psychopath and a killer, who was like a bank accountant as well. So he was watching all these funds go through, and it had to do with some of his family, with their heritage. Yeah,
Hmm. I, w-
diabolical villain. Yeah,
I wonder why Manhattan's always in the middle of everything. It's always like, because we know in history that literally solidified a lot of the Dutch and the British, who were later taken from the Dutch, the Manhattan Island. And that was the capital of the 13 colonies before it went to DC. It was the Manhattan Island. It was New York, New York. So I wonder what's the significance about Manhattan. And you know what? I really can't wait. We definitely have to do a space where we include some of my friends over on Clubhouse. They more so with the mud flood community. And I was building with them one night, and I had a brother. He said something to me that was really interesting. He said, "You know how they say Manhattan was sold for like a few trinkets and some furs, and it was like $5." But the brother said that what they don't tell you is that those trinkets were elements. And I said, "Whoa, wait, what?" And I wish I have to find out who this brother is. I wish I could have kept contact with him because we were on Clubhouse, and he said, "Yes, those were elements. They gave them the keys to the portals." I said, "Wait a minute."
no, yeah, he's definitely right. I know of certain trinkets and artifacts that could do that, as well as other talismans, medallions, etc., that have abilities like that. So he's probably definitely right. I would still, because I have a chart as well as I have ability to kind of feel an energy of certain things. So I would probably have to see it myself, but I have no doubt in what some trinkets and artifacts can do to a great degree. And a lot of them, actually, some of them, I won't say all of them, but some of them are in certain museums, and certain people just don't know until it really calls to you. It's kind of like Shazam, you know what I'm saying? With some of the stuff he was getting from like the staff and everything else and the power in that. So it's very much the same thing, certain trinkets, certain other things, the ancestors wear or a chief would get buried with. It was more than just a chain or a symbol. There was energy and power behind that. And
Right.
yeah, that's what I'll say there.
Right. I have to find that brother again because he dropped a jewel on me that made me and him literally we went down rabbit hole 101. He was he was spitting some fire. I had some fire to come back with him because we were talking about the elements, right? And I was saying how, okay, but think about this. the Iroquois Confederation, they were the gatekeepers, but the gatekeepers of what, right? And we're talking about these tribes. I believe the Mahata, I believe they would be a part of the Iroquois people at some point. I do believe that. Let me make sure. I want to make sure I'm gonna research that. Don't hold me to that. But that particular deal that's going to go down, that is going to be one of the biggest land deals that's going to solidify the placement of these foreigners here in the New World, as they say, the New World. So I thought it was very interesting, and I know we're probably going to do another space. We'll definitely have to do another space where we talk about the architecture. I know quite a few of you who have followed me before, or who have been in clubhouse rooms with me before. You know, I always harp on the architecture, especially in cities like Boston, Philly, Savannah, New York City. Who else has an ancient architecture? I think those are the key cities that have ancient architecture. And their architecture, it literally is a remnants of an old world. You can tell by the cobblestone in the floors, right? So you can literally see, like, if you come to New York City, come to Manhattan. Now they're going to say that this is where it's supposed to be a wall that was up, what we call Wall Street, right? Anywhere past Wall Street, you're going to see cobblestone floors or concrete or whatever. But I have my own theories because I have seen maps from the 1600s, early 1600s, where you can literally see that the road is paved in the upper Manhattan region, and they purposely cut the map off. When you get up to like Harlem region, they purposely cut it off, but you can actually see there are roads, and the roads have names. You can't see the names because the way how the map is shown, but they have names, right? And I've always been under the assumption that being that I am a native New York City person, born and raised, I've always been under the assumption that there is a previous civilization that have always been here. And this is why a lot of the dealings that deal with the 13 colonies had to start here in New York City. There may have been other places where there were settlements, but when it comes down to really solidifying the place of the foreigner here, it definitely had to happen here in New York, New York. And it's kind of funny because that's where a lot of your comic characters, like Connor was saying, they're always coming out of New York. All these comic characters, Batman, Killmonger,
The
he was
Hawk,
from Harlem.
which can I speak on the
Hawk,
Hawk real quick?
yeah, go ahead.
Because remember I showed you the original first edition comic, the Savage Hawk. Treaty broken. He's ripping the treaty apart with what? Tribal chief gear, indigenous gear on, and he's green red. What's funny is, you know what, Shan? Guess what they're gonna start doing now after General Ross hires Abomination. This is just the theory that's going around because it's going to the comic book. You know, you got these little YouTube geeks going around. I heard it one time. I really don't listen to these guys all the time, but I'll listen to them some because they got some points and they've been right to a degree with some of the stories, including even Les Namor situation. They've been on point about that. So when it comes to the Hawk, right? So we know after Endgame he lost his arm, and he's not trying to be part of the Avengers. He's trying to do his own thing with the She-Hulk too, as well. He helping his cousin that has some of his blood deal with the Hawk situation, right? And it's funny, she's She-Hulk. She's from New York as well, but she moved somewhere else. She's a lawyer, right? The She-Hulk is a lawyer. Found that funny right there. So, and I think the series is out on Disney. I actually want to watch that. I gotta, check into that. I think my mom has a Disney account, so I'll just hop over there, right? Get that, get that free stream free, before they try a Netflix on her. So I have to watch that. But we know with Ross, right? We know he likes to experiment. We know he's kind of jealous. He doesn't like the Avengers, so he's gonna make the Thunderbolts, and first it's going to be Abomination that's going to head it, and he's going to control him because we know he's a Russian that took the Abomination. He's a Russian that took the gamma radiation that Bruce Banner took. He didn't die as well, which is rare, but he became obviously the Abomination, and he struggles more with dealing with that. And he used to be U.S. general or lieutenant, I think, whatever. He was in the U.S. Army. He was a Russian, but he took that. He became the Abomination. He supposedly is going to die. This is what they theorize. He died, just like in the comic. General Ross is going to take that, right? And General Ross's daughter actually was dating Bruce in the first Hulk. I don't know where she went though. She disappears, I guess, even in the comic book. She's not to be talked about. Because I think she disowned her dad, obviously for good reason. And General Ross now is the Secretary of State. So he's going to become the Red Hulk. And now, Bruce Banner has a new enemy. And this enemy doesn't like him because the daughter and the Avengers, the Civil War, and everything. And he just has a disdain towards Bruce Banner, the original Hulk, who is of, just like in the comic book, the first edition before they discontinued it. And then they made it about this white boy who takes this random drug they found and which I feel that's Indian blood. That's just me, the gamma radiation, right? Long story short. So the Hawk in particular, his new enemy is going to be the Red Hawk, General Ross. Look at, dang it, Ross again.
Oh wow,
that Ross bloodline. God,
that
man,
Ross bloodline.
That General Ross, and he's the Secretary
They
of State,
love
right?
using that last name.
Man, Everett Ross, now General Ross. And look at Shan. He becomes the Red Hawk who goes against the Green Hawk, right? Which we know is the indigenous Hawk, or the first Hawk ever was the Bruce Banner, right? He was an Indian, quote unquote, in the first edition. Long story short, they're trying to literally wipe that from history. But we know if the Red Hawk in this particular situation is going to be General Ross, who becomes Secretary Ross, who now is going to lead the Thunderbolts after Abomination dies, and the Avengers just aren't answering his calls anymore because they're not really in existence with the original members anymore. Captain America, everybody's gone. So Tony Stark's dead. So think about that. That's going to be pretty deep, isn't it? And we know just General Ross, so-called Secretary Ross now, he doesn't like any of the original Avengers, period. Even Tony Stark, he dealt with him because his dad's connection with S.H.I.E.L.D. and the CIA, but he never liked them. So, yeah.
I actually put to the top of the room the indigenous Hulk and the one where they have the treaty broken. And then I put up another one that I thought was really cool, the Aboriginal Hulk. Very interesting.
What? I gotta look into that one.
Very interesting. Yeah. So yeah, I think, oh man, that indigenous Hulk one, I think you showed me that one before, and I was like, wow, treaty broken. And then, what was also very interesting about that? It was the price of the magazine. It said it was $14.91, and I'm like, $14.91? What happened in $14.91? So let's see, what happened in $14.91? Let's see, what was going on in $14.91? Because we know about what? $14.92. Who came in $14.92, y'all? Who came in $14.92? There's an actual book that's called The New Revelations of the Americas Before Columbus, and that book is called $14.91. A lot of things. There's another book called $14.91 Banished Americans. Oh, interesting. A lot of $14.91 references, because we know 1492 is the infamous year that Columbus is supposed to come to America. Go ahead, Connor.
No, I was also going to relate too, because I just got out of Thor: Love and Thunder, which I think people should definitely check that out. It's a very good movie. They did a really good job over there. But with the Hawk, even in the movies and the comic books, like he fought Thor, he lost, but then he becomes good friends with Thor, as well as even in movies he's good friends with, like, Thor is one of the closest Avengers he has a good relationship with. As well as Captain America, Tony Stark a little bit, but they're kind of different because they're both scientists. Because we know Bruce Banner, who portrays the Hawk, is really who the Hawk is, right? In Infinity War Endgame, he kind of becomes just the, Professor Hulk kind of in a way, and that's a comic series in itself. So we understand, like, this Bruce Banner character, and even just his, like, lineage, even in the Marvel comic universe. Hey man, he might have some Indian blood, and that's why he lived during those experiments, and he could absorb the gamma radiation. So this Hawk storyline to me is like one of the most interesting, and one of the ones like they really keep, even like they don't give him his own movies anymore. Like, you ever thought about that? Because after the first one, with the original
Yeah,
actor
I
before they
noticed
got
that.
this. Yeah, with
And
Mark
then now
Ruffalo
they made him all soft and off, like he's
get
a big
lost his
gentle
arm because he had the
giant.
snap. Yeah, yeah. Hey, the best scene with him was that Thanos scene because remember Thor, he was getting butt kicked by Thanos and his little army, the Black Order, right? And Thanos, remember in the Infinity War, he was like, hey, Loki was like, you know what? We got a Hulk, and then he came out. I know he was kicking his butt at first, and then we see Thanos turn up and put him in his place. But which I kind of feel that's that European Greek old angelic energy again. They're trying to portray like, oh, the European go put him in his place because Thanos is really like the Thanatos energy, and just his little narrative too, and the what the elite wanted.